Hello, I'm Amy from moonmindology.com, and today I am going to just answer a few questions and just go through some bits and bobs regarding the comments that I've had. So quite a while ago I was asked to cover Robert Kennedy Jr.'s chart. I didn't have a time of birth for him, but I've been working on rectifying that, and I've come to a time that I'm pretty happy with now, so I will be covering him at some point in the near future. I was asked to cover the BRICS countries, so I was looking around and I found that Brazil the leader does have a really solid time. We've got Vladimir Putin and we've got Xi Jinping, but I cannot get any information for Narendra Modi or Murmu. Unfortunately, the times are not accurate on there, so I can't really look at that. I can I guess use the country's chart, but I tend not to use them. I tend to try and use the leader's chart, because then you get what the leader's doing, getting up to, and it also encompasses what is happening within the country. So it's a bit like with Macron, you can see that there's disorder happening at the moment as well. So that's what I tend to use. So unfortunately, I can't really work with India, which is ironic, seeing as we're doing Indian astrology here. On Macron, there's a lot of things in France that are very frightening at the moment, and I do see that I've got some comments saying, what's going to happen with France? Is France going to leave the European Union? When's the European Union going to end? It's a difficult thing, because essentially what you're asking me to do there is look at a death chart, essentially, which is technically possible, but it's a very difficult thing to kind of really make a prediction on. However, I don't remember if I did cover this in the EU video, but they're having a pretty tough time at the moment. And I think part of the problem is that they are in the grand cycle of Rahu. Now, Rahu, I don't think I picked up how bad Rahu could be when I covered it previously, because I didn't think that I didn't process properly that Rahu was in its debilitation sign in Scorpio, and of course it's sitting next to a malefic, which is Mars. I thought that the power of Mars being in its own sign would completely overwrite anything else, but it turns out that it hasn't. And to some degree, I think it actually poisoned Mars, due to the fact that in the Mars cycle, it wasn't particularly good for the European Union either. So just to back up how Rahu can be pretty bad for the EU, it was in the Rahu, it was first in the subdasha of Rahu in 1998 to 1999, of course, around about 1999, that's when they first launched the euro. And pretty much, no matter what they did, they tried to put these fail-safes in it, they froze the prices, things like that. It still dropped significantly, the euro, and it took a long time for it to climb back. So there wasn't such a great year for the European Union. That was the beginning, and it started off with a little bit of a downer. And then, of course, the next time there was a Rahu subdasha was in 2008 to 2009. And now we all know what happened. That was the credit crunch. So that was, of course, not so great for the European Union. Of course, the EU went into the grand cycle of Rahu in 2014. And if you look at what's happened since 2014, well, it's been in a divorce from the UK. It had the worst year ever in 2020. It had, like the rest of the world, 2020 was terrible for the European Union. So since Mars has been quite difficult, I think a lot of the planets are quite difficult, but Rahu is one of the worst. And it sits with Mars, so it's tainted by Rahu's debilitation. And there could be a possibility that when the EU goes into the Dasha of Rahu Mars, that is a point where it is possibly going to be an end, and that's going to be about 2030 to 2032, which ironically, I think from the top of my head, if I remember backwards, is a similar time to when NATO might have a problem as well. I think the end of the 20s, we're going to have another lot of roaring 20s. And I think when you get towards the end of the 20s, I think everything will start to change. Unfortunately, trying to look at France, I'm not sure how correct the chart I have for France is. So really all I can use is Macron. But by the time that France actually has a Frexit, as it's called, I don't know whether he's going to be in power. I don't know whether his power change in 4 years is going to be part of the end of France being in the EU, or something else might happen. I mean, if anybody has a good French chart that they want to share, please in the comments let me know. I would love to see suggestions on, you know, charts, especially times and dates and the likes. I mean, looking at the French chart, I mean, you want to be looking at the borders, the friends and associates, as well as ninth house's law. So these are all areas that you need to look. So looking at the chart, in the third house, we have a fairly happy moon. In the ninth, the ruler of the seventh is there, and it's pretty neutral. The 11th ruler, Saturn, is in the 8th house. And France is currently in the Dasha of Venus, Saturn. And Venus is a debilitated planet, no matter how you look at it. And it is combust. And state the planets in the Dashas. So there could be a collapse for France between now and 2028. And it's going to be rocky for Macron. And, you know, he's not great. He doesn't seem to want to. He wants to take all the glory and all the power and be... the way he's behaved recently is absolutely despicable. The fact that there's essentially civil war in the streets, and he is not doing anything or putting anything in place to calm the people or protect the people. He's just blaming video games. That is absolutely abhorrent in my book. And yeah, it's not going to be easy for him. It's certainly not going to be easy for him going forward, no matter what he does. But I also don't actually see him ending his term early. He's not going to be kicked out. He's not going to be removed. He's going to be there for the entire time. Unfortunately, yeah. And whilst he's in power, you're not leaving the EU. He doesn't want that. I don't think that's going to happen until he's gone. And there could be an utter change for France throughout that time. But also when he is outside of power and he's taken out of power, that's when there could be a change. But the world is going to be a little bit chaotic, I believe, towards the end of the 20s. So, as I said, with the BRICS countries, with Russia and China, if you want to see predictions for those countries for the next year, you will have to go and look at the Vladimir Putin and the Xi Jinping chart. I'll link them below in the description for you so you can gain access to them easily. But that's where you're going to get the information, because as I said, I use the leader charts, not the charts of the countries, because you can't guarantee them, unfortunately. And I try to predominantly use, Rodden rated A's. Unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and I do a lot of rectifications as well. So there you go. I've also got some interesting charts coming up. So very exciting. As I said, I have Robert Kennedy Jr., which has been requested. George Soros, Klaus Schwab, Luis de Silva, I've missed out some middle names there, the Southern Irish leader, Leo Varadkar. I'm not very good at this. And also, I managed to rectify Ron DeSantis' chart. So that's another interesting one which I will look at some point, because even though it's far away in the future, everybody wants to know what's going on with the American elections, because obviously there's a lot of unhappiness in America at the moment, no matter which side that you're on. So I'm certainly going to cover that. And I think sometimes the further away that you make a prediction and look at the information, the less attached you are to it, and the more that you can create accurate readings, even though they may be somewhat vague. But yeah, so that's some interesting things that I am very excited to cover in the coming weeks. As I said, any suggestions for any charts that you want me to read, leave a comment of a name, and then I will see if I can get round to it. But thank you very much for listening to me rattle on. I'm sorry that it wasn't a full-on reading this week, but I am working on a bunch of different things for you, and next week I will be back with a video on a reading. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing yet. I'm still studying, still getting things together, but I will have a ton of content for you. But thank you very much. Brilliant. If you like my content, you can press the like button, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment, and you can go to my website, moonmindology.com, book a reading with me. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Bye.